all good? Okay, all right. And welcome, hey? Welcome, everybody, to what episode is this, Demos?
2,383.
2,383rd episode of...
Who's counting now?
Right, who's counting? Orthodoxy questions and answers. As you can see, we got a guest. Dan, you've been... Wait a minute, have you been on our show before or not?
I have not, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've done the fact or fiction. I think you asked a question, right? Right.
Yes.
So
Glad
Dan,
to be here.
Okay, Dan, taking a hot seat now, right? Okay. So let's see how you do on this. Well, we've switched, as most of you know, from Whiskey of the Week, and now we are into Icon of the Week. So, down, right there. Okay. So our icon today is of the Saints of Scotland, all right? Now, the premier saint, you can see right there. I'm not going to tell you who that is. I will have you text in what you believe, chat in what you believe to be the answer. This should be pretty easy, but there are quite a few saints of Scotland. I'm not going to list them all, obviously, but some that are represented in here. Number one is St. Columba. St. Columba actually founded the monastery after fleeing from the Turkish occupation. He opened up the monastery that is on the island of Iona, right off of the coast of Scotland. We also have Saint Kentigern. Saint Kentigern actually is better known as Saint Mungo. For you Harry Potter fans, you'll probably remember that I got to remember this. The hospital for Oh, good grief. The hospital for, I wrote it down, magical maladies and injuries is St. Mungo's Hospital, and that's where that comes from. So that's an actual saint. We've got St. Finian of Lindisfarne. We've got Donan, St. Donan of the island of Eigg in the Hebrides. And then we've also got Ordon of another saint from Iona. So we have quite a few saints from the British Isles. Certainly from Ireland, certainly from England, and then certainly from Scotland. And most of their conversions were the conversions of the pagan Picts that were occupying that territory at the time. Most people know, obviously, St. Patrick, but certainly there's other saints there. So we wanted to commemorate those saints since, unfortunately, we're not able to go to do the pilgrimage this year. We do the pilgrimage to Scotland every year. Mm-hmm. We're not able to do that, so at least we're going to remember that. At least we've got the icon here. All right. One other quick note. Next week we got a 2-hour special. We got a special episode. We believe a special guest star. So tune in for that next Thursday. We're going to do a 2-hour special. I think that's all that I've got. You've got anything?
Well, we have a returning question as well.
A returning question. City of God. City of God. So, so how do I start this off? For the Orthodox, although I have told you, okay, Demos, you had?
Well, I was going to suggest maybe we should give him some backstory.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So the mystical city of God is supposedly a book that was transcribed, I believe, in the 1700s.
The 17th century, actually, like about the 1600s, right?
From supposedly the Virgin Mary dictated the book
to a French nun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the background of this, which lends credibility to the story, is that she resisted writing this revelation. Just like St. John had a revelation, this particular nun, St. Mary, she had a revelation, but she did not want to reveal it because she didn't feel that she was worthy of this revelation. So she didn't want to write it. So, but the abbess at the time kind of forced her to write this, so she did it under duress. After then that abbess died, she had all of her writings burned. She didn't want to do anything with that. So then they asked her again. They said, "Could you recount that again?" And she held off for 10 years, and then she wrote it. So let's start from the point of she never wanted to write this down. It wasn't like she says, "Oh, I've got a revelation about the Virgin Mary, and I want to write this down." That's not necessarily how it happened. That's my first point. The second point is, how do we as a church deal with revelation after we already have the existing gospel? And the one of the bishops of the Catholic Church. Let's see here. Let's see. Allarding, Bishop of Fort Wayne, again Catholic bishop, wrote something very, very interesting or very orthodox about the interpretation of and how we would see this. There can be no doubt that God can and does manifest to chosen souls hidden things in addition to what he teaches through the public ministry of his church. And it is also an accepted truth that he sometimes reveals them to other people for the express purpose of communicating this knowledge to well-disposed persons. We've had other, certainly in the Orthodox Church, revelations that have been given, obviously, to St. John, to some of the other saints, St. Gregory, St. Basil. They have had revelations also. So that we as a church don't discount that, all right? But and now I'm continuing to read from what he wrote in the Catholic Church. The Church has yet to give no public or full approval to private revelations of any kind, nor would she ever do so, since that would be an addition to the deposit of faith left by Christ, which is the Gospels that we have, right? Okay? And so we can indirectly approve many private revelations, such as this city of God, since there are no writings of that kind which exhibit credible human proof of divine origin. So I think that that's really a good position. I would say that would express very well the position of the Orthodox Church, that we don't discount the idea of having revelations, but we in no way give them the same relevance that we would to the Bible the way that it exists today. Because, and you've heard me mention this on the show, the Orthodox Church does not close the canon of the Bible, so it's always open that it could be added, but that would be something that would take quite a bit of examination, and again, it would have to serve the purpose of essential for salvation. So things like this, like City of God, are things we would call theologumena, good to know, but we would not in any way, as the bishop here wrote, put them on the same order of magnitude or the same credibility as we would Scripture.
Very good.
All right, so what do we got?
Yeah, we got questions lining up.
Lining up, all right.
Going, yeah. First one. All right, Lasery. I made friends with Mormon missionaries serving in my country.
Okay.
We met at an English class, started talking, been going out for maybe a month and had a good time. And no mention of religion at all.
Okay.
But the last time we were out, I briefly mentioned to them that I am religious. So I have a feeling we're about to have the talk soon.
The talk.
And so to summarize the question by Lasery, he wants to know, what should I do? Should I share my Orthodox faith with them, or is it in vain? Thank you, and God bless you.
You should absolutely share your Orthodox faith. Remember, we can witness silently through our actions, or we can witness through words. 100%. We are, and again, I know I use the word proud here, and we don't want to use it in a boastful way, okay? But we, the Orthodox Church, possess the fullness of the faith, and there's nothing wrong with sharing that. Now, if they want to engage in dialogue, I think that that's a wonderful thing. Now, certainly we shouldn't use our Orthodox faith as a weapon and say, you're wrong, we're right, you don't know what you're talking about. But I would openly engage, and because certainly Mormons want to talk about their religion, and certainly we as Orthodox need to talk about our religion. So I think opening up that dialogue and keeping that conversation always moderate, meaning that, don't talk about high-level things, but make sure that you maintain a friendliness, right? A Christian attitude throughout the entire conversation. But absolutely witness to your faith.
Excellent. Yeah. Showing a respect, having the boundary of sorts. Yeah.
I mean, you do it, right? I mean, you're not ashamed of being Orthodox. You tell people,
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very
Especially since you're on camera.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I hate my faith. Wow. And there's another blooper. I hate my faith. All right.
We got next up, Amy. All right. And her question is, what is the purpose of giving confession when it is our turn to go before the priest? So she said, I get nervous and forget the proper way of confessing. So what's like the routine or
So
like
let's,
she wants to know, I guess, the process.
So number one, certainly the Orthodox Church's process is much more informal than the Catholic process. Okay. Now, I know that the Catholic Church is changing a little bit, and they've gotten rid of the booths and all that. We never had the concept of booths. So I would start with that. So there really is no set procedure. And the way that I was taught by my spiritual father, which is what I teach here, is that if you want to come to confession, then you already have something on your mind that you want to confess, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Most people, at least within the Greek Orthodox Church, do not come to say, okay, it's just my duty, I got to come here and confess. Nobody does that in the Greek Orthodox Church. They've got something that weighs heavy on their heart. That's what you do. You just come, you make an appointment with the priest, and you say, there's something that I want to confess to you. Now remember, in the Orthodox Church, confession is also about asking a question. For example, I'm in a situation with my wife. I don't know what to do. It's a very intimate thing, right? It could be about the fact that she wants an abortion, and I don't think that that's right. I want to come and confess that to her because I don't want it an open conversation. So I want it done under the veil of confession. So confession in the Orthodox Church is not just about, I've committed a sin and now I want absolution. Confession in the Orthodox Church has the equal component that I'm in a jam. I don't know what to do, and I want the guidance of the church because I want that confidentiality. So that can be confession too. So there's really nothing that you have to prepare for other than you have to remember that the priest is there so that he can help guide you through. He's not God, but he is there to help you through this process. That's why be very careful about who you select as your father confessor, your spiritual father. Because what the Orthodox Church does not want you to do is to now priest shop and look for the person that's going to tell you what you want to hear, right? You want an honest assessment, right? So before you start confessing, establish a relationship with a priest. And then when you have that relationship, that you know that he's not giving you the answer you want to hear, or he's not being, without mercy or something like that, and that you are comfortable with, then you can begin that process. Because sometimes, without checking into who that person is, he may not provide you the answer in the spiritual light that is best for you. Not the right answer, but the spiritual light that's best for you.
Excellent. Moving along, we have Matthew. So his question is, during non-fast times, do I only have to fast Wednesday and Friday, or the whole week for communion?
No, actually you do not. In fact, on Saturdays, it's even canon law that you cannot fast on a Saturday because that was the day of the fast for the Jews, and so you are not to be like the Jews. So you don't fast on Saturday. Now, I grew up, my mom was always like 4 days before that you would fast, okay? It turns out that that's not the rule. Also, the Wednesday, Friday is not connected to that. So what you must do, though, is you must prepare yourself through prayer and fasting, okay? All right, so then what I would do is I would prepare myself on, let's say, Thursday and Friday, right? Because I'm already fasting on Friday, right? There'd be no fasting, but there would be prayer on Saturday, and then I'd go to receive communion then on Sunday. So again, you don't have to fast the entire week. There's no really set rules on that. There's no canon laws for that. But the point is, remember, the whole point of fasting is you're denying yourself something. And then that's reminding you of why you're fasting, why you're denying yourself, because you want to keep your mind on God. Okay, and that fasting does that. If every day you're full, you're sleeping, you're not thinking about God, right? So
Very well put. Very good. Thank you. Samir, with the next question. This is related to a friend. And the question is, one of my friends was raised a Christian witch and used images of Christ, Mary, saints, etc.
Okay.
In her witchcraft. Should she destroy them or keep them?
The icons, the images
Basically,
of Christ.
the
Yeah.
icons.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, I'm just going to give you straight up Orthodox position on that. Any any icon that is not sanctioned by the Orthodox Church should be removed. I gotta stop right there. I mean, you really can't play around with that stuff because, witchcraft is antithetical to Christian theology. Okay, I mean, we have many canons about that. Though how those icons were generated, we can't really speak to that. What the purpose of that generation was, who was truly the author of those icons, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would just have to stay with the Orthodox Church only approves sanctioned icons, and those would be icons that depict Christ, the Virgin Mary, the events of the church, and then the archangels.
For a more complete answer, what if they were sanctioned icons? They went to a church, they went to a Greek Orthodox church, they got an icon, and that's what they were used for.
Oh, okay. So if it was a sanctioned icon, okay, then probably what I would do is I would bring the icon to the church, and then I would leave it for the 40-day blessing behind the altar.
Right?
Have them bring them back to the priest and let him place them in the iero, the altar area for that 40-day period.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, John Paul with the next question. What is the Orthodox view on participation with members of other faiths?
Okay, all right. I get this. We get this question. Quite a bit. So, Dan, I'm just going to ask you. Can you go to observe a Jewish temple service?
I don't see why not. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you participate in a Jewish temple service?
No.
No. So there's your answer right there. So we are allowed to go and observe. You've got a friend who is Jewish.
Yeah,
and he or she asks you, right?
Bar mitzvah.
Bar
right?
mitzvah, and it says,
bar
hey,
mitzvah?
I want you to come to the bar mitzvah. Yes, absolutely, you can attend that. But as you said, you cannot show that you are a participatory member of that, whether it be Catholic, Mormon, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, whatever that is. But there's no prohibition against us attending that, but we just don't participate.
All right, and John with the next question.
There are a couple questions from Trench.
Oh, turn. Oh, yeah.
Trench, welcome back. We haven't seen you for a while, so hey, how we doing again?
Okay, yeah. Okay, he does. We'll start with the first one from Trench. Orthodoxy Today printed a popular Catholic bishop,
Shain?
Shain comment from 1931 that the problems with society is tolerance since people have no depth or are too broad-minded. Would you agree?
I do have to somewhat agree. We have really blurred the lines on some things. Now, what absolutely I do not think is a blurring of the line is the discussion of ecumenism, meaning for the Orthodox Church to have a relationship with other Christian denominations. I think that that's important, and some people see that as absolutely wrong, heretical, and broad-minded. So I'm taking ecumenism off the table. But in other areas, society is forcing the Christian church to accept certain policies that are prohibitive. I think one of the big ones that's in the news now is the Catholic Church now is debating about what position should our president have on religious issues? For example, abortion. Abortion is against the Christian faith. It is the taking of a life. So we can't play around with that line. It is what it is, okay? Should we have compassion for a woman who is put in a difficult situation? Of course we should, okay? But we cannot change a stance on abortion, all right? For right now in the church, we do not allow gay marriage. Does this mean that couple can't come to church or is not allowed to be with us in our community? Of course not. So the church always has to show compassion. But society, secular society, is saying to the Christian church, you've got to change with the times. And the church is saying on some things I can. But on other things, I just absolutely cannot jeopardize my theology. So Trench is right on that.
All right, and Trench's next question. The church says, do not cremate since we will be resurrected. How is that possible? And if so, then wouldn't organ donations not help if that is not in the proper place, for example?
So the first part of that was about cremation?
Cremation, yes. So the first part is...
Say that one more time.
Cremation's not advisable since we're going to be resurrected.
Yeah, it's the church says do not cremate since we will be resurrected.
Yes, which is correct. Right.
How is that possible?
How will we be resurrected?
Well, I think that if it comes down to the question of resurrection, maybe we can expand on this a little bit. So let's take if people who are cremated, can they be resurrected or not?
Right. So look at it from that.
Yes, okay. So now, obviously they can, because the church allows a burial for those who are involved in a fire, and I've said this on one of my videos, in a fire, in a car crash, whatever that is, okay? Those are not the responsibility of the person. The willful action of me saying, I want my body destroyed by fire, this is what the church is saying you cannot do. All right. God is God. So in those situations, in any situation, he can resurrect the bodies of his choosing. Mm-hmm. But he has not given us an example, a Christian example, of where cremation was an honor to the body. So even though God can do whatever God does, he has not given us, through the Holy Spirit, any command or ability, permission to treat the body in that manner. And until the Holy Spirit does, we have to stay with the canon law of the church that we have, which is we don't cremate. But God is God, and he will decide who he will resurrect.
Now let's take that and apply that to the second part of his question, which is about organ donation. So if you're resurrected, but you've donated half of your organs, how does that work?
Exactly.
Well, I'm going with the whole Matrix, not Matrix. I'm going with the whole Terminator thing. Remember the Terminator 2, where he blows up into a bunch of little pieces, right? And then all the pieces just kind of find their way back in. I don't know. I mean, again, mind to God. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the organs are not going to last. The organs are going to decompose. They will be gone. It doesn't matter who had them. They are not, unless you die today and the resurrection's tomorrow. Okay, that's different. But
well, that's okay. I mean, so we are not the Jewish faith where we have to take the amputated limb and make sure that it's in the casket with us. We have to keep it. So we do not have that part of our faith. So right, because all of this will be decomposed. Okay, and then God will resurrect that. He doesn't need a physical nearness in order to resurrect us. Thank you, Presbyterian.
Very good. And then Trench also had a funny little third question. I heard vanity is a sin, so would vanity plates be improper too?
They're just called vanity plates. That's just the name of what they are. I mean,
Yeah, but it depends on I mean, if you have a, if you have a vanity plate that said, "I'm a Greek god," I guess,
Right,
I
yeah,
mean,
they're
right,
right, okay.
What if they're just being honest?
right, maybe, yeah,
But if you have like a nickname or something, that you
yeah,
use that,
yeah.
then
A
is that,
nickname,
is that vain?
no, that's, that's
Maybe
there's
business name or
there's no
something.
problem
Okay.
with no problem with that.
Very good. John, all right, his question. Is homosexuality lust? If yes, then what is the difference between a man lusting after another man's body and a man lusting after a woman's body?
I don't know. What's the difference? Lust is
Lust
lust,
is
right?
lust,
Lust is
right.
lust, right? I mean, okay, we certainly have the Old Testament prohibition against a man lying with another man. It's interesting. We do not have the prohibition. A Jewish rabbi gave me this one. We don't have the prohibition of a woman lying with another woman. Interesting. Okay, but we do have, and we have St. Paul talking about malakia. Okay, softness, which represents then alluding towards homosexuality. Okay, but the way that the Orthodox Church sees lust, we don't want to just put it under the guise of homosexuality. Improper lust, regardless of how it's focused, is improper lust. So we really don't make that distinction.
Okay. All right. Gloria's up to bat now. Her question. My family has been judging me because I converted to Orthodoxy. I need guidance.
So what would be helpful is if I could understand the family's background: Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, atheist. Kind of where they came from, to know how to engage. If they're judgmental because they are Christian and they feel that she has abandoned that expression of Christianity, you were Protestant or Methodist and now all of a sudden you became this crazy Orthodox, or you've been Catholic all your life, we're the same church, why are you becoming so and then atheist, it's what that one is simple. Why are you doing goofy stuff like that? This is all a myth anyway. So a little bit of background, would be helpful to know how to I went to military mode again. How to attack that? No, that's not what I meant. So
How to tackle approach.
how to tackle?
Yeah,
Thank you.
how to approach.
How to approach that? Thank you. Okay, how to approach that? But I guess generally speaking, I prefer the Socratic method. The Socratic method being that you always answer the question with a question. Okay, so what is it that you don't like about the Orthodox faith? What is it that we do? Well, you guys worship the Virgin Mary. No, we don't. We venerate her, but we don't worship her. Well, you worship icons. No, we don't do that. And so derail them through that process. That Socratic method works really well, because rather than saying, this is what we believe, this is what we believe, that's kind of hitting your head, hitting them with a hammer. But if you engage them and say, I want to know, I mean, maybe there is something I'm doing here that's wrong. Tell me what it is that I, as an Orthodox, now believe that you feel is not right.
Protestant family.
Protestant family. Okay, then that's exactly the tact that I would take is to ask them, just so I can be clear, what is it that you feel is heretical about the Orthodox faith that I am denying my Protestant faith? And see what they come up with, And if they can't come up with anything, they will then be a judgment unto themselves, right? If you can't come up with a valid reason, okay, then you heap judgment upon yourself. And again, always, because you always have to take a Christian attitude, right? It's not a battle. I'm not better because I'm Orthodox now. You can't take that approach, because we still believe that the grace of the All-Holy Spirit exists outside of the Orthodox Church. I know that that's heretical for non-ecumenists, okay? But we believe that Protestants will be saved, and we believe that Catholics will be saved, and we certainly believe that Orthodox will be saved. Okay, if we start with that premise, we can engage in a Christian discussion. And if they now become non-Christian, we can then say, well, wait a minute now, it sounds like your behavior is really now at fault here.
Where can I just
Yeah.
chime in quickly? Where do we get the most converts from in
The most,
Orthodoxy?
absolutely, without a doubt, Protestantism.
Protestant.
Right, right. From
Okay.
and it's usually, I mean, and I'm just taking it from actual personal experience. What they are coming to us for is to receive that fullness. There is, in non-denominationalism, many times, there is a lacking. You know, there is a lacking of a spiritual component. There's a lot of songs about Jesus, but the songs don't really have the depth that they do in the Orthodox Church. So, and the connection, the physical connection to the ancient church, that is important for people, that they feel that there is a succession of faith here. There is a connection to what the early Christians were doing. And you find many times, many Protestant churches are looking for that connection. They're giving them their church's names like the Carpenter Shed or My Father's House or Apostolic something. So they're looking for that connection to the apostolic faith, to the early church, and we're it. We are it.
Yeah, that yearning.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right. John, with the next question. Is the temptation Adam and Eve received in the garden different from the temptations we receive today?
No, not really. I mean, Satan and his demons tempt us as they tempted Adam and Eve, all right? We would say Satan. I don't know if we necessarily the Judaism is going to use the same term.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to use more the advocate. All right, just like in Job and so on and so forth. But the sin of pride, which is what Eve suffered, right? That she said, "Wait a minute now, I don't have to listen to what God said. The serpent is right. Hey, I can do this on my own. I can have a will that is not aligned with God." Sin of pride. Have we exercised as people? Do we exercise that sin of pride? Aren't we sometimes overly prideful? You know, we say, you know, one of the American fundamental things is what? I have a right to do whatever I want, right? Okay, that's the sin of pride, right? I know better than everybody else because I can do what I want. So we suffer that same sin today, absolutely. I guess we just never learn, huh?
Right. All right. So Trench with another question. If the church's job is to make saints, then wouldn't compromising values turn them further away?
Well, first off, I'd say that the church's purpose is to bring people to salvation by knowledge of Jesus Christ. You know, I mean, in an indirect way, you can say, you know, we are all saints, okay? But the church is not a saint factory. That's not what we do. What we are here to do is to bring people to God, to save their souls, to introduce them to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's what we're here to do. We're not a saint factory, all right? So I want to kind of start there. Because if we do that, if we truly bring them to Jesus, then the outcome of that will be a saint. But we're not trying to make saints. But the second part of that is, it continued on. And I
Yes,
didn't answer
exactly. And then there's another part, yes. It's not okay for priests to have tattoos, for example, but okay for others too.
Well, okay. Yes. Once you are a priest, you can't have a tattoo. All right, but I know quite a few priests that have tattoos because they were in the military. So are they not valid priests now? Do we take their priesthood away from them? I mean, so yes, once a priest, you can't get a tattoo. It's like marriage, right? You can't be married after you're right. Okay, so the tattoo is the same thing. Tattoos are a sign of brotherhood for military, for fraternities, things like that. But it certainly is not a prohibition for you to become priest, because I know many priests who have been ordained in our archdiocese that have tattoos. Now, if you've got a tattoo on your neck and it's showing, that could be a problem. That could be a problem.
Or your forehead.
Or, yeah, your forehead.
Or your hands, and
Yeah.
if they're
You know. But, I mean,
obscene or vulgar. But
we had a guy at seminary who had a tongue piercing. He had what do they call
Yeah,
it?
tongue piercing.
A tongue piercing, and the school had to come in and say, and he was in the seminary for priesthood. And the only thing they told him, they said, you can't come up and receive communion with the tongue piercing because it's going to hit the spoon and all that. So he had to take it off. But there is a, I don't know if he got ordained or not, but he was in the seminary. So,
and then the last part of Trench's question. Monetarists say women must have skirts, yet in church they don't. So which one is more proper to be, more Christ-like?
more Christ-like is to come with clothes on and don't come into church naked. That's what Christ-like is. Okay, so there. See, Demos went. Golly, I didn't. Look, I finally convinced my mom. She now wears pants in church. Took years and years, but my mom now, she wears pants in church.
She wore skirts before, though.
She did wear, yes, she did. She wore skirts before. But, my mom wears pants. Many, not many, but a lot of our ladies here, they come in pants. Okay. Now, going back to that original question, right? Trench asked that question about, are we sacrificing our faith? Okay. We allow in America women now to come in dress pants. Okay, are we sacrificing the faith? Have we given into secular society? I'd say, okay, yes, we did. Okay, we are not mandating that women have to come in a skirt. If they want to come in a skirt, that's fine. We don't, we're not saying, but here is where we have said, yes, society's rules, and not rules, but society.
The norms and cultures.
Thank you. The norms and cultures of society have now crept into the church, but we don't feel that we are violating any theology through that. So that would be a good example of where we have kind of
changed with the times.
Changed with
this
the
is
times.
something that
Yeah.
we're fluent, or we change with the times, and because it doesn't jeopardize theology.
Fashion changes. We're not wearing togas in church. We're not wearing, many of the different styles that have occurred through Europe through the 2,000 years since Christ.
Right. Of course, that begs the question now. So what if a guy shows up in a skirt? Now what?
If it's a kilt, it's a
I
different
was just
story.
saying,
well,
what about
it's a-
fustanella or a kilt? You like that type of skirt, or you?
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, no.
Or you mean like a ballerina?
I mean, I've shown up in a kilt. Okay, it was quite interesting to the parish. They'd never seen a Greek Orthodox priest wearing a kilt, but it was good, right?
That makes you the tartan priest.
And actually, then that makes me the tartan priest. Exactly. That's right. And plus, you got to admit, good-looking men in a kilt look better than good-looking men in pants. You got to admit that.
I don't look at good-looking men, but
Yes, well, okay, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, sorry, got off track, but I had to.
Quick little side note. Diane says, greetings from Florida.
Oh, hey, hello, Diane, Ted from Florida.
John up. His question is, I know that since God is omnipresent, he is present everywhere, but does this mean he is present on all objects too?
In or on?
He wrote on all objects.
Okay. So we have to be very careful, because saying God is in all objects can lead us into paganism. Okay, the idea that that God really isn't he's an essence, but he's not he's not a reality. He's more like an energy, like a force that exists in everything. We've got to be very careful with that language. So we do not believe that God is in the rocks and the trees and things like that. We believe that God is an independent, not anthropomorphic, right? But he is an independent, unknowable, incomprehensible being that exists in of his own and within the personhoods of the Trinity. Okay, but he does not exist in things. He's not like a spiritual force in things.
Very good. All right. So, John Paul, is there an Orthodox perspective on the parable of the unjust steward in Luke 16? everyone I talked to outside of Orthodoxy had opposite interpretations.
Okay. Which one?
The unjust steward. We'll return to it if necessary. Do you remember that parable?
Well, I'm not. There's a couple of unjust stewards. So which one? But he gave you a Bible verse, right?
Yeah,
If we can
I'll look it up.
and then read it to me. Okay.
Yeah, and we can piggyback his next question off of this.
Okay.
Also, what about Luke 16:18? What is the Orthodox teaching on divorce and remarriage?
Well, okay. So as far as the Orthodox Church simply does not, as the Catholic Church, we do not accept the principle of divorce. Akrivia of the Church says we do not accept that. It is only through economia, and that's why every single case has to go through spiritual court to be evaluated. If it was allowed, there'd be a process for it, right? Fill out this form, do this, you're divorced. No, because it is economia, and economia has to be administered in every particular case, every single divorce has to be treated in the Orthodox Church through a spiritual court which evaluates those principles, because the only one that we have from Christ is except in the case of adultery. We have that. Okay, so if we see that, Christ gave that reason, we can do that. But the Orthodox Church has opened up, at least the Archdiocese of America, has opened up another 6 categories, if I could say that. So mental and physical abuse, abandonment, lying, deception, mental illness. They've opened those up, that those are valid reasons to apply economia. But the Orthodox Church does not allow divorce by akrivia. But through economia, and we evaluate it, and we find out that that reason fits into one of those categories, we can grant permission to remarry. We never use the word divorce. We grant you permission that you may remarry, because we are comfortable in ourselves that the spiritual court has found that the couple has suffered a spiritual death, and spiritual death to us is equal to the physical death.
It's also the parable of the shrewd manager. It's the one that ends in the famous line that you cannot serve 2 masters. It's the one where I'll start it off. Jesus told his disciples, there's a rich man whose manager, and this is the NIV version, rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master's taken away my job. I can't dig, I can't beg. So what he did was he called in his master's debtors, and he asked, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager said, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Do you remember this? All right. And then he asked the second debtor, how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat. He told him, take your bill and make it 800.
Okay.
The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly, for the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than they are the people of light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed in eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with somebody else's property, who will you give your property of your own? No one can serve 2 masters.
Yes. Okay. So now that I do remember that one, okay, now I've forgotten the question.
The question.
Was it just my opinion on the? No.
Well, it was. Is there an Orthodox perspective on this parable? Because everyone that John Paul talked to had different interpretations.
Yeah.
Well, for the Orthodox, no one can serve 2 masters. Anything else that takes our eyes away from God, whether it's money, fame, lust, whatever gluttony, whatever those vices are that take us away from gazing upon God, we consider to be sinful. And to the extreme, they become our new master. So that rather than do what is right before God, we do what is right before that vice. So if I'm a glutton, every time I see food, I'm going to stop and I'm going to eat. I'm going to become overweight. I'm not going to take care of my health because I never think about my body as the image and likeness of God, that I should protect it. I'm thinking about the fact that I need more food. I'm serving that master. So the Orthodox perspective on this is fairly simple. The idea that anything that can turn your eyes away from looking at God will become your master. And you can only have one master, and that's God the Father.
So the one of the biggest controversies, or not controversy, but arguments with this particular parable is that it seems like it's commending the dishonest behavior of the unjust steward. And that's where it kind of goes back and forth with the different interpretations.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
What do you think about that? Because when we're talking about olive oil and wheat, it makes me think of a party, so.
I just want to be careful with this one before I. All right, so I want to just give this a little bit of thought before I answer, because I have an idea, but I want to check that against some of the fathers of the church before I give. I want to give the church opinion, not my opinion on this. So let's
re-examine that.
We'll re-examine that. That's a very good question, because I've always really focused on serving two masters, but the other about the shoot. So that good point there. I will have to investigate the church's position on that.
These are a lot of good questions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why the show is so good, because you really got to sharpen your sword here, right?
Absolutely.
Sorry, military metaphor again. By the way, hey, congratulations on your graduation from boot camp, huh?
Oh yeah, thank you.
All right, man. So
thanks. Next question from Gloria. Do Jews believe in the Trinity?
now there is what the Orthodox Church would call a heretical group, which is Jews for Jesus, the Messianic Jews. It's funny because they're kind of on their own, because the Jewish faith does not accept them, and the Christian faith does not accept them. They're kind of like the Mormons. They're kind of off.
Yeah.
So no, the Jews do not believe in a Trinitarian concept of God. But you have Messianic Jews who believe in the Trinity, but still feel held to the laws of the Torah. So they have their feet in both. And the canons of the church have always been, and I'm talking about the one church, have always been very specific about the fact that you cannot claim to be Christian, but practice with Judaizers, meaning those in the Jewish faith.
And then, okay, Marcia, and I'm just trying to make sure I can explain this.
I think we've had Marcia before, too.
Martha Magic, yeah.
Martha, yes. Marcia Magic, yes. Welcome.
Yeah, right. I just want to make sure I'm explaining this question correctly. Are
Okay.
you believing of a Catholic Church? I'm not sure how to articulate that. How she means it.
Well, I mean, I can answer it two ways.
Okay.
Do I believe in the Catholic Church? Yes, of course, because it exists, and certainly the Catholic Church is our sister church.
Yep.
Okay. Do I believe in a Catholico, Catholic, meaning that do I believe in a universal church? Yes, because this is what Jesus established on earth. He didn't say, Peter, here are the keys. It's the only church I want you to open up in Rome. he said, go and spread to all disciples, go and teach and baptize and teach them in my name to all nations. So Jesus Christ established the universal church. In the Greek sense of the word, kata olon, Catholic, he established that church. So small c, the Orthodox Church absolutely believes in. Again, some anti-ecumenists will say there is no unity with others. Either they are with us or they're not with us. But as our Patriarch of Constantinople believes, we are seeking to be reunified. So this is kind of an interesting point here, because our Patriarch seeks a return and a restoration to unity that we have broken apart, and now that we're coming together. Anti-ecumenists believe the unity was never lost and they left and became heretics, and that there is no restoration of unity. We are unity. We are it, and you just need to come back. So do you kind of see that difference, right? One is a lost unity that needs to be restored, and the other one is, no, we are always unified, but you guys left, so you need to come back.
All right. NG1A with the question. It was explained that a married priest cannot typically remarry.
That is correct.
Can a divorced layperson become a priest? Why or why not? Thanks.
Well, we do have, economia again, we do have in our archdiocese, we do have divorced priests who are still continuing to serve. So we do have divorced priests. Now, and here's the tricky part. In seminary, we had a number of divorced men who were seeking priesthood, but they were married in the Protestant church. And the Orthodox Church does not recognize that sacrament as a valid sacrament, and so they were not considered married because they weren't married in the Orthodox Church. So they technically, it's a technicality, right? Okay.
A loophole.
As a loophole. However, if they were married in the Orthodox Church, then yes, by akrivia, they would have been barred from priesthood. But there have been some situations where a divorced person has become a priest.
All right. And next question. We're going back to Trench.
Yes, sir.
Some people during the yearly festival use that opportunity to show what the Orthodox Church is about to non-Orthodox. Then
Like the Greek festival?
Yeah, I think that's what he's implying.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Then wait for them to ask. Shouldn't every church do that? So I guess should every church
Have like
promote
a
a
festival,
festival?
because the Greek festival, a lot of people learn about the Greek Orthodox
We have
Church.
tours
through
in the
festival.
church.
But
Yeah.
that's also the thing about the Greek Orthodox Church and their festivals is it's a cross between religion and culture.
Culture.
People come for the culture, they're not necessarily coming for the religion. It just happens to be an exposure to that.
And and agreeing with Demos here. Yes, every once in a while I agree with Demos. But he's right. This is a unique component of Greek Orthodoxy and Antiochian and all that, because if it's an Antiochian church, they will have an Arab festival. If it's a Greek Orthodox, they have a Greek festival. Romanians have a Romanian festival. Okay, and always, there is a tour of the church because they want to show the church off. They want to spread their faith. When I've gone to festivals that have been held at a Catholic church, a church tour is really not part of the whole festivities. They just hold a festival. So we are unique that we use our festivals to also demonstrate our faith. But I don't really see that. I don't see that and Terry can probably help me here on this, but sometimes you'll see that in a Protestant church. Like a Protestant church will have an event, and then there'll be greeters there that will say, hey, I see that, I see that you've come to our festival. Hope you're enjoying that. Let me show you around our church and the wonderful things that we do here. Now, Protestant church will do that, I think, a little bit
They have
more.
like pumpkin fall festivals, pumpkin picking and stuff like that. They usually have events, small events like that.
And certainly they'll do that. That will be their Passion Week, their Holy Week, right? They'll have some things set up, they'll act out some things, and then they'll have people afterwards. I remember going to one where they had this beautiful setup about Passion Week. They took you through the city of Jerusalem. It was great. They took you through the whole city of Jerusalem, and then when you left, then you sat down in this chair, and they gave you a pitch about the church. So it was like
It's like going to a
condos.
timeshare.
It was like a timeshare, right? You saw the timeshare, and then you went and you had. So yeah, it was pretty
It was
blatant.
all business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think,
All right.
yeah. So, answered all.
But
parts of the
that's a
question.
good point about our the Orthodox festivals, tying in that faith. I never really thought about that before.
So it's 8:00, but we have a lot of good questions. So if nobody has an objection, we can go on a a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
do
Do you have a little bit more time,
let's,
Dan?
let's keep
let's
rolling.
do a lightning round. Let's get through this.
Okay, let's go with
Yeah, every
So,
time Demos
first
says
question.
lightning round, first question, explain the Trinity,
Yeah.
2 minutes or less. All right, what do you got?
1137 Jam. This is a follow-up question about confession. So, what would the church do if a parishioner confessed a sin like abortion that occurred decades ago?
Oh, well, I've done that a number of times. I mean, it's not out of the ordinary, certainly. I mean, it's a shame, but now in that case, again, it's all going to be about economia, right? Because we certainly do not promote that sin, right? That is clearly a sin, right? Okay, but I've got to say that, and especially in those cases where it happened a long time ago, I would have to say in every single case, the trauma and the pain and the suffering that the woman has gone through in recalling that event is torturous enough itself. It doesn't need me to add more pain and suffering on top of that. Okay? So she is coming to me already repentant. This is something I did. Nobody comes to me and says, well, I'm kind of glad that I did it, so I feel bad that I'm glad. Nobody comes to me and says that. They all show trauma of that event. Okay, and so the church has to be there to offer them compassion and welcome them back into the church through some kind of penance. Okay, but not for the reasons of penance, but for the reasons of ensuring that they have considered the magnitude of what has happened and that the church is there to welcome them back in. So they have inflicted the suffering upon themselves for what's happened. The church doesn't have to add to that.
Excellent. Okay, so
Oh, that's a lightning round question, really? Whoa.
right, Ethel. When the priest blessing both bread and wine, we kneel, and after Easter we stand. Please explain.
All right, so this is actually a pretty easy one. Okay, the canons of the church are very clear. On Sunday, you don't kneel. Okay? Pews are an American thing. We do not kneel. Okay? So you go to a Russian church, you go to a Romanian church, there's no pews there. You stand for the entire service. There is no time to kneel. Okay? However, because in a monastery, liturgy was served every single day. And this is the way the ancient church did it. They served that agape meal, right? Communion was important. Okay, the Greek Archdiocese, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America has said that in order to remember that we should be celebrating liturgy every day, we ask that you kneel on Sunday in remembrance that we should be doing that. But if you desire to stand, stand, because that is the proper mode. Okay? So this is the Greek Archdiocese of America saying, kneel on Sunday. However, from the time of Pascha until the Pentecost kneeling prayers are read, we do not kneel so that we can remember the significance of this event, that there is no reason to kneel. We are triumphant. We are victorious through Jesus Christ. And we carry that 50-day period all the way up until at Pentecost, we read the kneeling prayers, and then after that, then we kneel.
You just had to explain that last Sunday.
Yeah, I guess I didn't go into great detail about it, but, again, different churches grew up with different things. Like, for example, I grew up that you kneel after Ascension, after the 40 days, okay? But then we go to seminary, and it's like, no, you kneel after the 50th day, because if I read the kneeling prayers, but you're already kneeling for 10 days before that, what am I reading the kneeling prayers for, right? Makes no sense. Try to do things that make sense, so...
All right. Diane wants to know, Father A, what is your favorite icon?
Okay, so actually I have a couple. Okay, so this one, this icon that I showed today, this is one of my favorite icons. Not because it's Scotland, but because it's important that we understand that Orthodoxy is a global faith. Unfortunately, we in the Greek Orthodox Church, we think that every saint in the world is Greek, right? And so, I've had baptisms where they give them a name like Patrick, and they say, well, no, you can't give that because that's not a Greek name. You don't get baptized with a Greek name, you get baptized with an Orthodox name. Okay, so this just shows that Orthodoxy actually is in several lands. The other one that I like is the icon of the 30 martyrs of China. So during the Boxer Rebellion, okay, there were many people that were killed in China by the Boxers, and part of the people that were killed there were, I believe it was 30 or 40 Orthodox, along with one of the homegrown Orthodox priests, Chinese born, and they murdered all of them. Okay, and so we have the murders of the murder of the Boxer Rebellion, of the Orthodox during the Boxer Rebellion. So this tells us that Orthodoxy was in China. So my favorite icons are those that show that Orthodoxy is not about Greece, or not about just Jerusalem. It's about the entire world. So those two stand out for me.
Yeah. All right. Aaron wants to know, Father, can a Christian lose their salvation?
Yes, they can, but only through their own hands. So the Protestants love the saying, and Terry's going to correct me here, none can be taken from my, how's that? And how's that?
No one can take you from me.
And no one can take you from me. But what they don't realize is that you can remove yourself from God. You have free will. This is what Satan did, right? Satan used his free will and said, I have turned myself away from God. Okay? And certainly we have the ability with free will to do that. So can a person lose his salvation? Yes, he can, but only through his or her personal willful action. Not because, as the anti-ecumenists will say, not because they are not part of the Orthodox Church, because they will say that if you're not part of the Orthodox Church, then you have lost your salvation. No.
All right. So NG1A.
Well, I know that name too.
How do the teachings of the late Father Ephraim complement and conflict with the teachings of the Greek Orthodox Church of America?
So it's not that the Orthodox Church, and there are many who love Father Ephraim, and he has established, to his credit, he has established many monasteries here. In fact, Ephraim monasteries. One of the big ones that we went to, which was St. Anthony's in Arizona. St. Anthony's in Arizona, Holy Trinity Monastery that is in Smiths Creek, where our last parish where we came from, in Michigan. There's one in Roscoe, New York. So he has helped bring monastic life to America so that we can appreciate our heritage. But at the same time, one of the things that we are wary of is drawing parishioners to have the monks as father confessors and removing them from the parish priest who knows them best. And so that's where we feel that there's and not all abbots and monks do this, but there have been some situations where the monks have encouraged people to come to them for confession, for communion for Holy Communion on great feast days and things like that.
Yeah.
And it pulls people away from their home parish. So we kind of have a little bit of a difficult, a complex relationship. On one hand, it's not that he's doing, or that his monasteries are doing anything wrong or anti-Orthodox. There's nothing like that. But it's just that they are pulling people away from the parish when they should be encouraging them to visit the monastery and see what life is, but pushing them back to their home parishes where they belong.
Yeah. All right. Very good. We're going with Trench again. The question is, magic is, again, the faith, and so one that does magic is considered a magician. Your name means magician. Another,
Yes, it does.
Father
Harris.
Heros means death.
Yes.
Many Orthodox first names get changed, so shouldn't the last?
Well, it doesn't mean that I was that my family were magicians. It doesn't necessarily mean that, and certainly it doesn't mean that my friend Father Athanasios Charos is truly the angel of death. Okay, these are names that are given. Okay, so we don't want to we don't want to make too many connections here. We don't want to say Papa Kakos is a bad man, right? I mean, who knows how that name came about, right? Okay, so, or Papa Kalos, does this mean that he's a good man? I don't know, maybe he's not. So we don't want to attach too much importance. Yes, my name does mean magician, but do you see me practicing magic? Am I in any way doing things that would indicate that I am attaching a significance to my name? And if the answer to that is no, then
Is Father Harris, does he have any issues going to hospices or?
yes, he does. Yes, he
Here comes
does.
Father Death.
Well, and I mean, he used to tell us that story in the seminary. And again, he's a fairly large man. He's tall. He's a big guy, and he would wear the raso, the black raso. And he'd go into these like dementia or end of life wards where they're kind of in a semi coma. And so you barely can see shadows, and this big dark object looms towards you, and he's got this deep voice. And they would hear, Ime do ocharos. I mean, you hear that, and you're like, no. So yeah, he's had that happen to him.
He doesn't wear a hood when he does it, does he?
No, he doesn't wear it.
Goodness.
But he likes the kalimafi, so he does wear the kalimafi.
no.
So yeah, it does. Oh, man. So, did we...
We have a lot of questions in
Holy,
tonight. And since
well, I don't
we're
want to
taking-
hold him up too long.
No.
Yeah.
Man, you're
How
disposable.
about another 3, and then we'll save the rest. We'll try to get to them. We're probably not going to get to them the next week or the following week because we're taking a week off after our 2-hour special. But we'll save as many because there are a lot of really good questions here. But since you just mentioned, if I may jump in, since you just mentioned about wearing black and so forth, Theodore Koulouris, I think this is a new commenter. Why do priests wear black, and what is the purpose for wearing black?
And again, there's nothing evil in the black color itself. I knew this one because somebody a long time ago had asked me this question, and I'm trying to remember where the black came from, whether it was something. For some reason, I keep thinking that there was a connection with the Ottoman occupation, that the black came from the Ottoman occupation. That we were not to show ourselves as priests. So even now, when you go to the Patriarchate in Constantinople, even now you're not allowed to go like this. You're not allowed to wear a collar or indicate that you are a priest. You can wear
Like signifies concealment.
concealment. Right. Or
I'm reading a little bit about this, about how it's to set you apart from the rest of society, and so you can be signaled out in a crowd of people.
yeah, but I can wear purple and do that.
Yeah. This is a question that we should probably tackle in a video.
Yeah, that's actually a great video commentary, because I want to do. I know that I have answered this question. I know I've did a little bit of research on that, and I know it's a little bit deeper than just standing.
Well,
out.
we were talking a little behind the scenes. Everybody's watching. We've been talking about doing a few more videos about other items in the church. We did one about the bishop's throne. We did one about the podium. And we've talked about doing one about vestments.
Yes,
different
yes.
vestments. So that would be a good spot to tackle that.
Yeah,
as well.
we can include that in the vestments video. Okay.
So whatever questions we don't get to today, I'll save, and we'll get to them in a couple of weeks. But definitely stay tuned. Next week is going to be great. But Aaron asks a fun question to end on.
Okay.
If you're down with that.
One more question.
Yeah, it's still, yeah.
One more question.
I'm at your disposal. Yeah, you can do this all night. if you want.
Is there a particular Greek dance you enjoy?
Yeah.
Well, again, the Sirto is one of the dances of Chios, the island where my family is from.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the Sirto because you can express yourself in that. Because the dance itself is really boring, but it's meant so that the leader can show off their skills. It's the one where they hold the cloth, and then you turn around, you do flips and everything like that. So the Kalamatiano it's a fast-paced dance, so you really can't do what you want. And not a lot of people know the intricacies of the Zorba dance, because the Zorba dance is a little bit more complex. You got to know what you're doing. Everybody can learn the Sirto. It's only like 3 or 4 steps, but it really lets you show off your skills. So that's my favorite dance. That's the one that I really like. So, all right, nice question to end on there.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
perfect. So join us next week.
All right, so we talked about the 2-hour special. Dan, again, thank you very, very much
Thank you
for
for
joining
having
us. I'm
Pleasure being here.
I'm gonna call on you guys again. I'm gonna try to set up a rotational schedule, because I know it can get difficult when we've got just one person doing it every week. So that's why I'm just kind of calling on. I've got somewhat of a cadre of people now that I can use. And if you don't mind staying in the mix here,
Yeah.
I would appreciate it, at least until you get called back to. Do you have an active duty station yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right.
I'll be here for a little while. So.
All right, she'll be here for a little bit, so we're definitely going to bring you back. So again, stay tuned, because is it next week?
Next week.
Next week, big 2-hour special. Hopefully that surprise is going to work out for us. I think it is. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you Sunday and then on next Thursday.
Saturday. We have a live stream Saturday morning.
Saturday
is
yes, Saturday is the last Saturday of Souls. We are going to be live streaming that, but that begins at 9 a.m. because we have a wedding in the afternoon. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Presbytera.
Thank
Dan,
you.
and Demos, as always. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the saints of Scotland.
What was the answer to the?
Oh, did we get an answer? Nobody texted an answer in?
No.
Terry?
St. Andrew.
Saint Andrew. That's Saint Andrew the Apostle, who is the patron saint of Scotland. All right.
Beautiful.